Hi, welcome to Project Management using Google Docs. I am Lee Brownell. I have to hold a minute. I have to figure out how to make this work. I'm Lee Brownell, and I am a 6-8 science specialist working with the University of North Alabama. And I am also the Best Robotics District 3 representative, which means not a whole lot. So, that said, one of the things that we thought that teams really needed was help with project management. How do you make the 42 days of best the most or the best use of time? And so I came up with this little presentation. I hope that it goes well and hope you learned something from it. So have you ever felt like this?
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He was the first cat herder in our family.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half-wild short-hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here. And if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know?
You see the movies, you hear the stories, I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
It ain't an easy job, but when you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost a one of them, ain't a feeling like it in the world.
EDS, managing the complexities of the digital economy.
Cat herding. Cat herding is a good idea or a good metaphor for best. And project management helps you herd your cats a little bit better. So there's a process to complete any project and to manage your project. First, you need to define your goals. Second, you need to define the constraints. Third, you're going to break it down into steps. 4, develop a plan to complete each of the smaller steps, create a timeline, carry out your plan, and 7, deal with setbacks that are going to happen. I think that number 7, the last one, is something that hurts every single robotics team that I have come in contact with, is when they hit a setback, they want to give up. We're done, this didn't work. So we'll talk about how to deal with those. First off, defining the goals. You're going to have to, you've got certain goals for best. Robot completes what it's supposed to for the game. You have an engineering notebook you have to do. You have a trade show booth that you have to complete. You have a presentation you have to complete. And you have spirit and sportsmanship. There are probably other goals for your team. Some of them may not necessarily be directed towards the actual competition. Maybe it's that we learn how to work together as a team. There may be all kinds of goals. Maybe individual people have goals, but we're talking here about the best program itself, so we're going to go with that. Okay, so the next step is to define constraints. What are the constraints that you have? First, for best, you have 42 days, and that's it, and that counts day 1 of go pick up your stuff. So after go pick up your stuff, you have actually 41 days left, and that other day is really competition day, and so really you have 40 days, but 42 days of best. Another constraint is how much money do you have? Now, best sells itself as free, and that's true. You do not have to pay anything as a registration fee, and you do not have to pay for the robotics kit. That's given to you gratis. You don't pay for any of that. However, do you want team t-shirts? If so, those might cost you something. Are you going to do a trade show booth? If you are, what are you going to build that out of? That might cost you something. Any other thing that you can think of, tools, what tools do you need? How much money do you have? So those are constraints. Third, your ability. How able are your students to do whatever it is that they need to do for this project? You need to take that into consideration. Number 4, what tools do you have? The year we first started, we had a jigsaw, a circular saw, some hammers, a drill, some clamps. I think we bought some clamps. That was our tools. The last year that I worked with BEST as a team sponsor, we had all of that plus another drill, 3 or 4 other drills, a band saw, a drill press, we had a CNC machine, we had a metal cutting saw. I don't even know what that's called, but we had one. So we had a lot more tools available on a 3D printer. We had a lot more tools available to us at that time. Did that change what we could do? It certainly did. So that was a constraint. Number 5, the personnel that you have. What are the strengths of your students? You need to take that into account as one of your constraints. Some of our students are really good at this. We don't have anybody who knows how to do that. Take that into account. You also need to take into account, do we have any mentors who can help with these areas where we are weak? And if you do, great. If you don't, well, you'll need to deal with that. Okay? And number 6, space. Space is a big thing when you come down to think about it. I remember the first 2 or 3 years of BEST, it was completed in the back of my classroom where we had to, at 5:15, everything had to be cleaned up, put in the closet, and put away and make it look like we weren't even there, just so I could have class the next day. So you really need to take space into consideration as well. Okay? So you got to break your goals down into steps. Goal 1, build the robot. For building the robot, you've got to first develop a scoring strategy. And your scoring strategy should have an offensive and a defensive side. Your offensive side is about how are you going to score points. Your defensive side is how are you going to either A, keep other teams from scoring points, or B, how are you going to interact with other teams, whether it is keeping them from scoring points or just working with them to help them score points. BEST has started putting in a lot of cooperative play. So how is that going to work? Is it more beneficial for you to work with the other teams or not work with the other teams? And if you do work with the other teams, how are you going to do this? That's all part of your defensive strategy. Once you have that scoring strategy, now you can start looking at how you're going to build the robot. What sort of locomotion, based on our strategy, how are we going to move our robot? Do we need a gripper? Do we need an arm? Do we need some other thing on our robot? What sort of baskets or I don't know, whatever else you can put on there? How are we going to build our robot to score points the way we said we were going to? Okay. So we're going to break it down into smaller steps. Okay. Then we're going to come up with a plan to complete those steps. Step 1 was our scoring strategy. Okay, here's our plan. Part 1, we're going to read the rules. Now you'd be amazed at how many teams don't sit everybody down to read the rules. Sit your team down and have them read the rules. Have a discussion about the rules. A lot of people want to take that first little bit, and my team was no different than any other team. We got our stuff and we went back to school, and what did we do? Start building the robot. Nobody knew what the robot was going to do, but we were going to build one. So don't do that. And the later years, the last couple years that I was running the team, we never even once opened up that stuff until, other than to inventory it, until about a week in. We sat down, the very first thing we did was read the rules. Then we had a discussion and listed out ways to score. What's going to be the best way to score? One year, well, number 3 is the best way to score the most points. One year, the robot was supposed to build a CPU, and so you had to move something over here to get these parts, to do something over here to get those parts, to do something, to put a, I don't know. It was a big, long thing. What we found out, though, through some math, was that if we could move on that first bit, if we could move all the little dowel rods, that's what we had to move first. If we could put all of those in every round, there was no way anybody could score more points than us unless they were doing the exact same thing. If they went through and did everything you were supposed to do, we would still outscore them by 500 or 600 points. And so just by reading the rules and coming up with all the ways to score, we discovered a really, really good way to score points. And we developed a robot that didn't do anything else. It just did that one thing, and it did it well. Okay. And then number 4 is coming up with some sort of defensive role. How can you stop the other teams from scoring? Is there a way to do that? Is there a way to protect pieces or to keep the other team from using pieces? Currently, BEST does a lot with cooperative work between teams. And so it may not be that you could do that, but you might be able to come up with how are you going to cooperate with another team so that it works out more beneficial to you. Maybe you are helping the other team, and that's fine to help other teams, but you want it to benefit you more than it benefits them. So how can you do that? Should you do that? That's all part of your plan, your scoring strategy. So breaking down, that's develop a scoring strategy into steps. These are the steps we're going to cover. And maybe you have more steps, and that's fine. Okay. Next, create a timeline. Create timelines. When are things going to be done? Okay, so day 1, we're going to get our materials. Day 2, the team's going to read the rules and blah, blah, blah. Day 3, we're going to discuss scoring constraints. Day 4, we're going to create a scoring strategy, an offensive and defensive plan. But more than that even, once you've got that done, perhaps your team comes up with how are we going to, we've got to build the robot. So now you're going to break that into parts, and you're going to have a timeline for those parts. We're going to build a trade show booth. So we're going to have some time to plan the trade show booth. Then we have to have time to build the trade show booth. We're going to break it up into pieces. And each of those pieces, we're going to have this done by this date, this done by this date. Create a timeline for all the parts and pieces and when they're going to get done. That is important. That'll keep you on schedule. That'll make sure that everything is organized and done when you want it to be done. And if it's not done, then perhaps that's an area where, some team, you might have to siphon off some team members from one area that's getting things done and maybe ahead of schedule and move them over to an area where, these people are struggling. They need help. And so we need more people. We need more personnel. So those are all things that your team leadership can deal with. But if you've got a timeline, you'll know that it's happening, where if you don't have a timeline, you won't know how far you are behind. Okay? So once you get your plan, just do it. Okay? Carry out your plan. Do what you said you're going to do. I will say this, however. Once there's no plan that survives that first day of doing it. So understand that your plan's going to change. If you can't be flexible enough to change the plan, then there's going to be a problem because things aren't going to work out right. You need the plan there, and then as things start developing, things may need to change. So be sure that you're okay to do that. For example, one year we were building a robot to do this. We got the robot done, and we found out we couldn't do that. So we had to change our plan and change our robot. We had to change our whole scoring strategy because we could not get the robot to do what we wanted it to do. And so we had to go back and change it. And that's okay. And the students need to know that that's okay. So let them know. And if you're a student, hey, it's okay to change the plan. Don't worry about it. Just be sure that you change it before the day before competition. Now there's going to be setbacks. Okay? You're going to have something's going to happen. A piece is going to break. You're going to find out that you don't have the expertise or ability to build a certain thing that you think that you need to build. So plan for that. You need to plan more time than you think it's going to take. Plan for extra material. Plan for time for your team to learn something, for somebody to come in and teach you whatever it is you need to do. Plan for that. Okay? Put that in, okay? That you have some extra whatever. And there are all kinds of setbacks that are going to happen. We had a band competition come up. So I had to have a bunch of people leave. Well, we're supposed to be building so this is due today, and half the team is gone. So now what do? We hadn't planned for that. That was part of my problem. I didn't set up a plan enough for that. But anyway, we got enough kids in to finish it up, but it didn't go as well as we wanted it to. It's a lot of serious stress going on at the time. So if you'll plan for that, there are going to be setbacks, and that you're able to be flexible, and that you've built in time, material, and time for learning in, you're going to be fine. Okay. Now, how do you set your team up to make this happen? I don't know if that shows up on your screen or not, but I finally figured out how to make it move. So how do you set up your team to make this happen? Well, the way I set up my team, again, you do it how you want to. The way this worked is we had a CEO, and then we had team leaders. We had 5, I think, 4 or 5 team leaders. We had a research and design team leader. We had a programming team leader, a marketing team leader, spirit and sportsmanship team. We had 4. And then each of the team leaders reported directly to the CEO, and each of the team leaders had special groups. So within the marketing team, that was a big chunk. They had the team that built the trade show booth, the team that was working on the presentation. Within the R&D team, we had the team that worked on the engineering notebook, and the team that did robot building, and then within that even we had it broken up even further. Now each of these special group leaders, and there needs to be a leader of the special group, report back to this team leader, who reports back to the CEO. And it's suggested that you have regular meetings between the CEO and the team leaders, and these team leaders and these special group leaders. They don't need to last 3 days. They don't need to last hours. A few minutes, maybe 10 minutes, just to get the gist of here's what's happening. Okay, so let's say marketing team leader or booth building special group leader says, hey, team leader, we're not going to be able to finish this in time. We just don't have enough people to make that happen. So team leader reports to CEO at their meeting that, hey, we're going to need some more people. So the CEO can work with these other team leaders, say, hey, do you have a few other people that you can send over here to help out and make things work smoothly? That's the CEO's job, is to make sure that these people are able to do their job. These people, it's their job to make sure that these people can do their job, and the whole program works. Okay. Now, a good way to get that done, a good tool to use, Google Docs. There are several different versions of this here. There's Google Drive. If you have certain special documents that all your team needs, like the rules, you could set up a whole team Google account, and we did that at Russellville. We set up a team Google account, and all this stuff sat on the team Google account drive. And so like the rules would go into a folder, and then everybody had access to that as they can view. Okay, so you send out a thing, I think everybody on the team's email address was in there. You send out an invitation to everybody on the team, and you share the rules folder with them. So now everybody has the rules. How long did it take this to happen? About 3 minutes, because you would have to upload the rules to the drive, and then you have everybody's name in a group. You click send to group, and then everybody gets an invitation. Google Docs is the actual spreadsheet part of this, not spreadsheet, excuse me, Word document. It looks like Word anyway. We used this for everything that had to be written, specifically engineering notebook. So the CEO, the team leaders, and that engineering notebook team, those people had access to that folder, and it was shared amongst all of them. The neat thing about Google Docs is everybody can have that folder open on their computer or their phone or wherever they happen to be, and they can work on it at any time. 2 people can be working on it simultaneously. So we set up a template for our engineering notebook, and if you think about it, the engineering notebook has parts that it has to have every single year, and you just set up a template where it just plops into place. We use that over and over and over again, and we just fill in new stuff every year. Okay. Google Sheets is the spreadsheet program. You can use that for, I used it specifically for demographic data. There's another one that I didn't put on here called Google Forms, and what I did is I created a form that asked all that stuff that's in the best demographic data sheet that you have. I asked it of everybody, sent it out to every team member. When it comes in into a spreadsheet, and then all you have to do is disaggregate that spreadsheet information. You can keep up how many boys and girls you have, you know how many, what race everybody is, what grade everybody is, a lot of different things that you can do. Whatever it is that you have to do on that form, you can do. Second thing is, the students then can take and create charts and stick that into their presentation that they have to do for their presentation, which leads me to slides, which is the PowerPoint of Google. Good thing about PowerPoint is there's a lot of functionality to it. Bad thing about PowerPoint is it exists on one computer. With Google Slides, it works just like everything else in Google. You put the whole presentation team in, you share it to all of them. Everybody can work on it no matter where they are. They could be in 5 different states or different countries for that matter, and they can all be working on it at the same time. They could all be sitting next to each other in a computer lab, but they can all be working on their part of the presentation. The other thing is it's always available, so you can download it as a PowerPoint if you want to. We found through a very, very, very sharp learning curve that if you lose the flash drive that you have the presentation on, it's bad. So we learned to put each person on the presentation team had a little jump drive, and they had the presentation on that. Then we also learned to put it on Google Docs as well, because wherever you go, it's going to be somewhere with some internet. And so we had all the flash drives, plus we had it on Google Docs. We could get to it. It wasn't going to get lost. And if it did, other people had problems too. So Google Slides, it doesn't have all the functionality of PowerPoint, but it's enough to do what you want to do here. And final is Calendar. Now, I like Calendar because you can set up several different calendars. So the CEO could have all of the calendars, but the head of the R&D department could have all of their R&D timeline in their calendar, and that could be shared amongst all the R&D people. as well as the CEO. So the CEO can say, hey, what's R&D doing today? And they can look and see. R&D head can say, what is my team supposed to be doing today? They can look and see. And R&D, a research and design team member can look, what am I supposed to do today? And they can see right there, today we're going to build wheels, and we're going to build the arm and whatever. So everybody can see what needs to be done today. And that leads back to them being able to take ownership of that project. If there's nothing on the calendar to do today, guess what's going to get done? Nothing. Okay. So the plan's going to fall apart. Okay. So your season's going to go a lot smoother if you develop a plan. And taking time to develop that plan is difficult, but doing so helps so much. Take time to develop a plan. Take time to do all the upfront work, and I promise you, the rest of it's going to be smooth. One last thing before I go on too far after this is build in time to practice driving, and you need that. That's just old Mr. Brownell telling you stuff. Okay. Well, I think that's the last slide. So let me exit out of this. I hope that this was helpful for you. I know if I had been told some of this stuff years ago, it would have helped my team a lot, but I'm hoping it helps you as well. So good luck, and I'll see you on kickoff day.